Welcome to Embracing Love. Let's begin this week with a meditation so we can get comfortable in our seats, start to check in with our bodies, close our eyes, feel our feet on the ground, connecting us to the earth, feel our seat connecting us to where we're sitting. Let's take a deep cleansing breath, breathing in fully and exhaling, letting go of all tension, all stress from the day. Do that one more time, taking a deep full inhale and then exhale. Now let's start this relaxation by becoming aware of the navel chakra. It's located in the belly somewhere, usually close to the navel, close to the belly button. So just begin to notice that spot. This is the chakra that contains the seat of the physical body, or connection to the physical body. It's a good place to start becoming aware of the physical body. So just notice that spot in your belly and feel your awareness begin to spread out from that spot, spreading out to the rest of your stomach, rest of your abdomen. Clench those abdominal muscles and then allow them to relax, settling into your stomach. Now, allow your awareness to spread down to your hips, feeling the lower spine, the back of the hips, the sides of the hips, the crease along the front of the hips, the bottom of the hips, connecting you to your seat. Now allow your attention to move down into the tops of the legs, feeling the thighs, tops of the legs, the bottoms of the legs, the inside and the outside. Let's clench those big thigh muscles and then release them, allowing the thighs to relax. Continue moving your awareness down into the knees, feeling the kneecap, the top of the knee, the crease on the underside of the knee, the insides of the knees, the outsides of the knees. Now continue moving down, starting to feel the calves, the shins, the back of the calves. Let's squeeze those calf muscles tight and relax them. Now become aware of your ankles, the insides, the outsides, your Achilles tendon, the bony part of your heel. Now continue becoming aware of the feet, bottom of the feet, the arches of the feet, the ball of the feet, the toes, the top of the foot, the sides of the foot. Notice your toes. Let's wiggle all the toes, feeling each individual toe. Then allow the feet to relax. Now let's bring our awareness back up to the belly. Start moving your attention upwards from there, feeling the internal organs, your intestines, your kidneys, your liver, your stomach, the bottoms of the ribs, the sides of the ribs, the back edge of the ribs. moving up into the rib cage. Feel your lungs inside your chest, your heart. Notice the top of your chest, armpits, back of the shoulder blades. Moving up into the shoulders. Let's roll the shoulders up to the ears and down and back. Notice the outside of the shoulders, the outside of the arms. Start feeling your biceps. Let's contract those bicep muscles and then allow them to relax. Notice your elbows, the bony tip at the end, the crease on the inside, the outside. Now become aware of your forearms, the outside of the arms, the insides. Let's squeeze those forearm muscles tight and then relax them. Now notice your wrists, the insides of the wrist, the back of the wrist, the sides. Now feel the palm of your hand, the back of your hand, your thumb, the knuckles, the fingers. Let's wiggle all those fingers, feeling each individual one. And allow the hands to rest. Now bring your awareness up to the throat. The front of the throat, the sides of the neck, the back of the neck. Maybe lengthen the neck slightly. Now start to notice your chin, your jaw. Maybe wiggle the jaw back and forth. Notice your nose, your cheeks, your eyes, your eyebrows, your forehead. Let's squish up the face and allow the face to relax. Now feel your ears, allow your ears to relax, the back of your head. Now moving your attention up to the curve of the skull, the flat part on top of your head, the very tip of your head, the crown of your head. Maybe you like to imagine you're reaching the crown of your head up to the sky. Now let's take another deep, full inhale, breathing in to fill the lungs. On the exhale, imagine a wave of relaxation washing down your body from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. Just washing away the day, washing away any stress. Let's do that one more time, inhaling fully. And exhaling. Once again, letting this wave cascade down your body, washing away all stress, all tension. Let it all wash down into the earth. Do that one more time, inhaling to fill the lungs. Then exhaling, release, let go. Now let's sit here for a few minutes in this full body awareness. If you'd like something to occupy the mind, you can inhale, counting to 5, and exhale, counting to 5. Or you can just be aware of your body, be aware of all the noises around you, all the smells, all the sensations. Be aware of your thoughts. Just allow all your thoughts, all stimulus to come into your mind and then pass away once again. When you're ready, you can begin to deepen your inhales. Back into conscious awareness. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin us. All right, so how's everyone doing? Good? Feeling good, feeling relaxed? So before we begin, I don't know if everyone's here, so I'm encouraging people to think of questions, think of obstacles that are preventing you from embracing love, whether it's love for yourself or love for your life, love for the world and all the people in it. Because whatever obstacle you're feeling, you're probably not alone. We can all benefit from discussing it. Plus, I want to talk about things that are relevant to you guys, things that are on your mind. I'm happy to think of topics that are interesting to me and talk about them, but I want to make sure things are interesting to you guys as well. So that being said, are there any questions, any obstacles anyone would like to discuss? Yeah, Helen, are you raising your hand?
I guess I can start. So it was a challenging week because I was in a meeting and things were discussed, and it was kind of a and it was a group of
Kind of a what?
difficult meeting. Some difficult topics were being discussed. And I had a different opinion from the person that was leading the meeting. So I finished the meeting feeling feeling sort of sad and mad at the same time. And I think if you put sad and mad together, it's like not loving that person. So instead of having compassion and love for them, I felt the opposite. And there was another individual in the meeting that expressed a facial expression that also sort of set me off because it was directed at me. Anyway, today I met with the leader of the group, of the discussion. I just came from there, so it's fresh in my mind. And learned that this person had a big sort of financial situation they were faced with, not himself personally, but with the organization. And it was an extremely difficult situation, and he was really upset by it and was frustrated. So his demeanor was carried into the room. So I guess what I learned from that was I took the position of disliking the person and judging and criticizing him. It was all negative, right? So that to me, again, is the opposite of love and compassion. And so I was disappointed with myself, right? So you asked the question, what prevents us? So I think everything comes back to the ego, right? It's the ego saying, my ego saying, I was right. What's wrong with this person? How can they be saying these things? How can they treat us this way? When he, in his own mind, had a perfect right to be frustrated and emotional the way he was. And that was explained to me in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up really feeling love and compassion for this person. And we ended up the meeting hugging and smiling and laughing, and and I thought, wow, I really suffered in between that. He also suffered in between that. So if we just put love and compassion there right from the get-go, you would eliminate that suffering.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, well, it sounds like you're doing the work. I mean, you're putting it into practice. And I mean, it's natural to have those responses at first. I mean, our egos, they develop to protect us in back, whether it's from our childhood or even kind of the ego in an evolutionary sense, that anger response that we feel and when we feel like we're wronged, that has an evolutionary remnant from back when we were living in tribes, and where we needed to not allow others to take advantage of us, or we needed to have a visibly angry response when someone was doing something bad to us, even if, I mean, bad is relative in this sense, but I mean, that's that kind of response to get mad and response to anger is programmed into us. And so you don't need to be too hard on yourself for having those responses. And it sounds like you didn't really act on it, and you eventually resolved the situation. So it sounds like a win for you.
Well, but except that, you've been talking with us about loving ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And as I was feeling all these emotions myself, I was hating myself for feeling it.
Mhm.
I wasn't loving myself. It was like I was angry at myself for feeling all of this frustration myself, and almost like this hate, wasn't hate, but I don't know what other word to say, this sort of, I was disgusted by the whole meeting and the demeanor of the people and all that. And at the same time, I was disliking myself for having that type of reaction.
Mhm. Yeah, well, so like I was saying, I mean, it's natural to have that kind of reaction. You don't need to beat yourself up for having that reaction. That's a natural response. But maybe one thing to consider the next time you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling mad, or you're reacting with this negativity, whether it's in a meeting or a one-on-one, that's a time, and whenever we're feeling those strong negative emotions, that's a time when we need more love ourselves.
Mhm.
So maybe next time, if you're in a meeting and you're feeling yourself reacting negatively to someone else's emotions, if you think of it, that's a time to start directing love to yourself. I mean, you can focus on the other person. It doesn't help to focus on the person or focus on your negative response. Just start thinking to yourself, start sending loving thoughts to yourself. And if you can, if it's not too weird, maybe you can put your hand on your chest and just think inside your head, just say, I love you inside your head to yourself. I think anytime I talked about this last week, anytime we're struggling with negative emotions, a way to help ourselves feel better in that moment is just to give ourselves more love. And if you can say it out loud, you can put your hands on your chest and say out loud, I love you to yourself, creating that vibration of love physically around you, so that washes into your physical body, that vibration of love. Or even if it's just in your head, if you're in a meeting and around people and you don't want to start talking to yourself, you can just say it in your head, and that still creates that vibration in your head. Say I love you to yourself in your head while you're struggling with those negative emotions, and see if that helps lessen your negative response to the situation. Does that make sense? Mhm. Yeah, the hard part is just remembering it when we're caught up in the situation. Remembering to be loving when we're especially faced with negativity from other people. That's when it's most difficult to love ourselves. But it just takes kind of time and practice and repetition. The more we can notice that and remember and start giving love to ourselves, the more it becomes a habit and becomes easier and easier to do. Great. Thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, that's a very common obstacle. What do you do when you're faced with someone expressing negativity at you? And it's natural to respond with negativity. And but what we can work on, what we can try to practice is responding with love, either love to the other person. But if that's too much or that's too difficult, then just give love to ourselves. Until the more love we give to ourselves, eventually the heart becomes full enough that we can give love to others no matter what they're doing, even when they're caught in their negativity.
I know for me, when I'm somebody's being negative toward me, it's very hurtful, and my reaction is anger too. Like, it's hard for me to take that anger and internalize it and feel sad. It just immediately goes to anger, and I just want to like be angry back, which is, you know, never a good feeling. But it's very in the moment. It's not anything that you think about. It's just spontaneous. That's what happens, is you just flash to anger. At least
Mhm.
I think I'm not alone in that. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And so I try after the fact to find a way to have compassion for the situation, for whatever, like if they're angry at me or something I did or said, or I think about how can I find a thread of compassion instead of anger. And sometimes I'm successful, not always. So I'm working on that.
Yeah, and it takes time to undo all that lifetime of conditioning. I mean, especially in our society, we're kind of, I mean, that's a normal response. If someone gets mad at you, it's normal to get mad back at them. I mean, that's how we see other people reacting. That's how we're kind of conditioned, that's the normal response. When someone gets mad, you get mad back at them. So it just takes time to undo that conditioned response. And one thing to keep in mind, I just heard this in a Matt Kahn YouTube video. He said, to help with compassion, you can try to imagine or have the mindset that every person you're meeting, assume that they just came from the worst thing that ever happened to them in their life. I mean, kind of like Helen was saying, that guy in that meeting had just received this really bad financial news, and that's why he was in a bad situation. So if you can start cultivating this mindset that everyone you meet, what if they just found out their loved one is dying? What if they just got the news that they have cancer? What if they just found out that they're losing their job? You know, if you kind of go through life assuming that the person in front of you just had the worst news of their life, that can help create compassion for everyone that you talk to.
So I have kind of it's definitely on that topic, just an interesting, maybe potential question too, especially in these times when everybody has been going through on some level kind of some of the worst times potentially that they've gone through, or some of the most difficult. And everybody's finally maybe getting to see people again for the first time, and you don't really know what all they've really been going through during this time period. So I try to be very mindful of that. You don't really know. You kind of know what people have been putting out in pictures or what they've been telling you, but no, you never really know what everyone's been going through behind closed doors. And with that being said, like a certain, everybody interacts a little bit differently potentially than last time you remember them, and everybody's bringing things a little differently to the table, like I said. And I've had some really weird interactions with that kind of thing. And like, I mean, some people I've known since third grade, yeah, these kinds of things. And I've been very much working on myself during this entire time. These types of, what we've talked about, and how you guys have met me. But with that being said, some people don't take that very well. Like if you're coming to the table with what we're talking about and how we are talking about interacting with love and compassion, and potentially they've been going through some stuff you may not know about, and then you see them for the first time in maybe 2 years. I had an issue a couple weeks back, and it didn't go great. I did not know how dark of a time potentially this person had been in. And, I was trying to really react with love and compassion. And it was like, that was not what that person wanted to have. Like that was the opposite. And just made her feel worse. And like it ends up that, she's going through a lot of depression. And, I tried to really be mindful of that and try to step back and just listen and be kind. But I mean, it was like I was venom. So I don't really know what you're supposed to do with that when you're trying to be loving, kind, compassionate. Just listen. And it literally was like I was the opposite, like the anti of everything she wanted or needed, or I don't know, like kryptonite. I was her kryptonite.
Oh, so you were trying to respond compassionately and lovingly, and that's that. Do you think she wanted you to like scream back at her or something, or
I don't know. I don't know what would have been great. I don't think that would have been great. I mean,
yeah.
but it didn't go well the other way either. So I mean, I don't know what the answer is there, but it's just, I think potentially in these times, that's just an interesting maybe thing to bring up, because we have like really strange things going on right now with that kind of stuff. And we don't know what everybody's been going through, kind of like what you're saying. Like,
yeah, that is a really, especially now that,
yeah,
I mean, someone could have just lost their job, or a relative could have passed away from COVID or other things. So yeah, I mean, especially in these incredibly turbulent times, who knows what people are going through. And sometimes, like you're saying, no matter how lovingly you respond to someone, they're just going to respond poorly because they're in such a dark place that no matter what you do, it's going to be the wrong thing. And in cases like that, I mean, I'm not sure there's much you can really help them with. I mean, sometimes giving someone space is the most compassionate and loving thing you can do for them.
I ended up walking away towards the end. Luckily, her husband was there too, and I had known him since the third grade. And like, I just ended up like, if I was her kryptonite really, and it was making me worse, me being around, like I did just remove myself. Like I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Courtney, it sounds like there's a lot of fear in that situation. Like, I think when someone is dealing with fear, I've found like it's irrational, and there's no really amount of soothing that's, when it's beyond this point, it feels like it's really hard to rein it back in. So maybe it has something to do with that.
That makes some more sense, because it did seem very irrational, like in a place that, like I was a bridesmaid in this wedding. Like it was a place I'd never seen. So maybe that makes sense that there's probably a lot of fear in a lot of places. And she'd expressed some with Delta being back out. And I think there was some fear in other areas too. So that makes a lot of sense too.
Have you heard MAD is SAD's bodyguard?
No.
So like if you're mad, it's an okay way to express that you're actually sad. So I notice this a lot with students. They come in and they're super angry, super mad. They hate everyone. I had this the second day of school last week, and you just tell this kid was angry, walks in with this huge chip on his shoulder, slams his bag on the floor. And I'm just like, okay, he really needs some extra love and attention. And, I always try to like tell them, hey, if you need someone to talk to, please reach out, because some of these kids have had like no social emotional support over the summer. Sorry, my cat's trying to talk to you guys.
That's right. Yeah.
And then, so at the end of class, he comes up and he goes, my mom hates me. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, she hates me. She wants to put me in a hospital. I go, what's going on? And then he starts crying. He's like, I want to kill myself. And I'm like, okay, this is, and it happens, like, I swear it's like once a month. And it's these kids are like just so stressed out, and they don't have any healthy way to de-stress because our society doesn't teach that. And so I, walk him right down to our social worker, and everything's okay. And then he comes back the next day and he's a completely different kid, like just talking to the social worker, because some of these kids have been at home for a year and a half.
Yeah. That's heartbreaking.
It is. And it's not the first kid, and it won't be the last kid.
That's a really, Matt is sad, but that makes sense too, because when they got back, they said that she was going to really get work on with depression, and that's complete sadness. I mean, thank you for that. That's very helpful.
Yeah, I like that. Mad is sad's bodyguard.
Yeah.
All right, on that note, let's meditate. So let's get comfortable in our seats once more. Close our eyes, check in with the body. Feel our feet connecting us to the earth. Notice the legs above the feet. Feel the hips, stomach, the chest. Once more, let's roll those shoulders up to the ears and down and back. Lengthen the neck. Reach with the crown of the head up to the sky. Let's take a deep cleansing breath, inhaling the nourishing air. And exhale, letting go, relaxing. So now if that feels comfortable, you can put your hands on your heart, on your chest. Now, as we sit here, on each inhale, imagine that we're breathing in the love that's all around us all the time. So the universe, the core energy of the universe is love. Underneath everything else, underneath all the pain, all the fear, all the suffering, love is at the root of all of it. Let's imagine that we're breathing in this love that's all around us, inhaling, filling our lungs. And then as you exhale, imagine you're blowing that into your heart, filling your heart with that love. Feel it swirling around in your chest, bathing your love and warmth and heart and love and compassion. So inhaling, soaking in love from the universe. Exhaling, blowing that love into your heart, into your chest, bathing your heart in warmth and compassion and healing. So let's do that as we sit here for the next few minutes. Inhaling, soaking in love, and exhaling, breathing that love back into our hearts. When you're ready, once more, start to deepen your inhale, bringing your awareness back into the body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin us. So thank you everyone for that great discussion. It's heartwarming to hear all the love everyone's bringing into the world. So that's how we can make this world a better place, just one heart-centered interaction at a time. So the topic I wanted to talk about tonight was a heart-centered perspective on karma, heaven, and hell. So karma is another one of those concepts from spirituality that's often misunderstood. And we often tend to think of it as sort of a cosmic justice system, right? Where we do something wrong and then the universe punishes us by making something bad happen to us. And it can seem like that's what's happening, because it can seem like in our lives we do something wrong and then something bad happens to us. But it's not this tit for tat punishment system. It's more like, my teacher used to say that karma is just your state of mind in any given moment. And so when we make a bad choice, when we do something that hurts other people or hurts ourselves, on some level, we're aware of that. And it makes us feel bad about ourselves, whether or not we're consciously aware of it, or even if we're just subconsciously aware of it. Anytime we cause pain in the world, whether it's to other people or to ourselves, we feel bad about that. And if we make lots of bad decisions, if we're caught in some self-defeating patterns where we cause a lot of pain for ourselves or other people, that starts to accumulate in our subconscious. We start to feel really bad about ourselves. And then we actually start to manifest situations that reflect that bad feeling back to us. And that's how we create situations for ourselves that cause us pain back, is kind of, we wind up subconsciously punishing ourselves for what we've done. So it's not, karma is not the universe punishing us. Karma is ourselves punishing us for the things that we perceive that we've done poorly, for the bad things that we've done in the past. And I have an example from my personal life. I've talked before about my early romantic life, how I would get infatuated and rush into these relationships and fall madly in love. And then after a few months, promptly the infatuation would fade off and I'd fall out of love, and that would cause lots of pain for everyone involved. Even once I became aware of this pattern, I couldn't seem to help myself. I'd still rush into these relationships knowing it was a bad idea. And then the same pattern would keep playing out, where the infatuation would fade and then I'd want out of the relationship. And so over and over again, I just repeated this pattern and caused a lot of pain. And as I was aware of it, I started having these thoughts, like feeling that someday I'm going to have to pay for this, right? That someday there's going to be a reckoning. Someday this is going to be revisited on me. And lo and behold, someday, eventually, the tables did start getting turned. It actually happened with the same person over the course of a relationship. We were together for a long time, and I was trying to force myself to stay in it, even though my feelings had changed. So it led to lots of pain for her. And then we broke up, and then we got back together. And this time she was the one who was avoidant and not open. And I was insecure and anxious. And so that was the first time I started feeling a lot of the suffering in a relationship that I had inflicted on other people. throughout my younger life. And and that happened a few more times. After that, I kept getting this string of situations or relationships, or even not full relationships, but just interactions leading to a relationship where I was experiencing all kinds of suffering and pain because I think I was manifesting these situations because I felt like I deserved it. And it kind of did make me feel better in some sense to go through this suffering that I inflicted on other people, because I knew I could understand what I had done. And, it made me feel like I was paying for the mistakes I made earlier. So that's just kind of one example of how we can create these situations. And in retrospect, I noticed in those relationships at the start, I would say and do things that signaled that I wasn't ready for a relationship. And then I would be hurt and surprised when the woman didn't want to get into a relationship with me, even though in retrospect, I was sending all these signals that I wasn't ready for a relationship. So that's just one way that we create these situations to bring us the punishment that we think we deserve. And this kind of can also, this karma, you've heard it playing out in a single lifetime, but it also kind of can extend from lifetime to lifetime if you believe in that idea of reincarnation. So the idea that we have about ourselves when we leave the body, the opinion deep in our subconscious that we hold about the life that we lived, that influences our soul's choice in coming back into another incarnation. So I think this is an interesting way to think about the idea of heaven and hell. So if we go through life living what we believe is a sinful life, then our souls can choose to reincarnate in a hell world here on earth. And there's plenty of examples of hell on earth right now. I mean, if you look at countries like the Sudan or Syria, I mean, there are plenty of places to be born and live a hell-filled life with just strife, war, famine, disease, or even less subtly hellish lives, like just being born into an abusive family or abusive family members. But the main thing is it's how we believe about it, how we feel about ourselves, how we believe about ourselves. So if we feel that we've lived a sinful life, then we're probably going to make ourselves incarnate in a life that's going to punish us. But if we feel that we've lived a virtuous life, then we're going to reincarnate into a nice lifetime, with a good family, a supportive family, and a peaceful situation. And so this is where it comes back to all these ideas about loving ourselves, because how we feel about ourselves is our main determination of our karma in any moment. And so I think, like Courtney, like you asked last week about having shame about ourselves. And I want to clarify that a little bit, because I just heard an interesting idea from Gabor Mate. If you've heard of him, he's a well-known expert on trauma. He said it's healthy to feel remorse for our actions. So when we do something bad and hurt people, it's a good thing to feel remorseful about those actions, but it's not helpful to feel shame about our being for bad things that we've done. So do you see the clear distinction that it can be appropriate to feel remorseful for the things that we've done, and that remorse can help motivate us to not make those same hurtful decisions in the future. But it's important to realize that even when we make bad decisions, like I've talked about before, we make those bad decisions that cause pain for ourselves and others when we have core wounds that we haven't resolved. And so when we make a bad decision, it's not because we're a bad person, it's because we have unresolved pain that we need to heal. And the way out of it, the way to stop making those bad decisions, the way to stop causing that pain is to love ourselves more and seek out healing for those core emotional wounds. Because when we, like, in that article I sent the link for that I wrote, the more we love ourselves, the more we create positive thoughts that help us make good choices for ourselves and for other people around us. So we're running out of time, but are there any questions about that idea about karma and heaven and hell, and how how we feel about ourselves influences our karma. Any questions or comments?
So are you saying karma isn't always bad? It could be like good karma.
No, there's good karma too. Yeah. So, like I was saying, if we think we've lived a good life, or if we've been making lots of good choices in life, and we love ourselves, then we're more likely to find ourselves and create for ourselves situations where more good stuff happens to us. We're more likely to be around loving people that bring more love into our lives. So it works both ways, definitely.
During the training, the sutras that I had to talk about dealt with karma. And one of the things that I interpreted, just my own interpretation, is that karma is really not necessarily good or bad. It just is. It's like a cause and effect. It's almost like, we throw something into a pond and there's ripples that happen. And so just awareness around every action that we do has an effect. So it just made me like turn my head around thinking about karma, because I used to think of it as like kind of like what you said in the beginning, where you do bad things and then you're gonna grow horns or something. But so it can be a lot more subtle than that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but also just those are really big things that you're talking about. I mean, karma, heaven, hell, and then loving ourselves. And it's like, it's a lot of material to think about and to implement and talk about, I guess. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Agree.
So Matt, you only have 5 of that. I think we need like 5 more hours of that.
Agree.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to think about it, and if you have questions, we can answer them next week too. So yeah, you can allow that to kind of process and simmer, because I guess there are some rather meaty topics.
Thank you, Gina.
Yeah, that's a good point also, that sometimes there are just physical consequences when we do or there are sometimes just kind of physical consequences for our actions, like setting situations up that then come later that have effects that have nothing to do with how we feel about ourselves, but just setting events in motion in the world that then come back and, like you say, ripple back to affect us later on. All right, any more questions or comments? All right, so we are running out of time. Let's do one more quick exercise. I don't know if everyone was here the last time we did the I love you exercise, so we'll do that real quick. So it's pretty simple. It may sound kind of silly. It may feel ridiculous. It may feel physically uncomfortable if you're not used to it. But it's a really easy, I've talked about this, so if you're wondering what it is, we're just going to put our hands on our heart and we're going to repeat out loud. And I invite you all to take mute off so we can all hear each other talking. We're just going to say I love you out loud over and over again for a minute while we sit here. And so this is a great exercise for just bringing more love into our lives by just creating that physical vibration. When we say those words, I love you, it creates that physical sound vibration of love. And it reverberates love into our physical being and affects us and everyone around us. So, all right, so let's settle into our bodies, get comfortable. You can close your eyes if that's easier. And let's put our hands on our hearts and let's go.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. Love you.
I love you.
Love you.
I love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
I love you.
Love
Love
you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
I love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you all.
Aw.
Love you.
Love
I love you.
you.
Love you.
Okay, our minute is up. Thank you all for participating. Thank you all for coming. It's been great having you all. So how was that exercise? Does that feel uncomfortable?
No, it's really good. Nice.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Good to
Love you
see
all. Yeah.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.